Disappointing loss to the Texans. They are clinging to the final wild card spot right now. Meanwhile, the Steelers' loss to the Bears was their fourth in their last 6 games, dropping them out of the current playoff picture. Who has been more disappointing this season? Is it the Bills or is it the Steelers, Jeff?
I'm going to say the Bills here. I think this is, pretty slam dunk. You think about this team was in the AFC Championship game last season. They have the reigning MVP at quarterback in Josh Allen, and the Patriots are going to win their division. That no one foresaw that happening. And you look at what the Bills have done in some of the surprising losses, right? They lose to the Patriots at home. We know the Patriots turned out to be really good. Then the Falcons beat them. The Dolphins beat them. And then we saw what the Texans just did to them. And you think about what the Texans game was. They sacked him, 8 times? Yep. He had 2 interceptions. He didn't score. You got the Keon Coleman drama, right? Their defense hasn't been, or because of the injuries, hasn't been as strong as we thought. Other than their offensive line and Cooks, like the run game, which receiver has really stepped up and been the guy? I would say from the Bills' perspective, I expected a significant amount more than I did out of the Steelers, so I'd say where they're sitting. And again, we have a third of the season left. This is not to write them off. And Josh Allen can be Superman, but the problem is you are literally asking him to be Superman week in and week out, and that's a hard thing to do in the National Football League. They've just been disappointing to me. I had higher expectations.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that you would expect Josh Allen to ascend while Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, and Joe Burrow were dealing with the issues that they've been contending with, injuries, nutrition, all of those things. But to me, it's the Pittsburgh Steelers by leaps and bounds. Just because with the Buffalo Bills, there's a lot of runway with Josh Allen's career. He's 29 years old. The Pittsburgh Steelers rolled out a 41-year-old Aaron Rodgers, who they waited on throughout the entirety of the offseason in order for Rodgers to show up to Pittsburgh and bestow them with his good graces. This is the guy that Mike Tomlin handpicked and said, you know what? He's going to be the one to help us change this trend of losing postseason games, having early exits in the wild card round. It's been since 2016 the last time the Pittsburgh Steelers have actually won a postseason game.
Dang.
That's almost 10 years ago, y'all. At some point, something about that has to change. And the Pittsburgh Steelers told us that Aaron Rodgers showing up was going to make that happen. And guess what? For the first month and a half of the season, it sure looked like it, because the Steelers got out to a 4-1 start, and they were 3 games clear in the win column of the Baltimore Ravens, who were reeling. And now they're looking up at the Ravens in the standings. We said back then that the Steelers had no excuse to not win this division, and I'm not going to backpedal on that right now. It's an embarrassment for Pittsburgh.
The Bills.
I get where you're coming from, CC, and I don't disagree with you, but I would tell you that the biggest culprit or the biggest reason for the Steelers, listen, the offense hasn't been great, and we understand that, but the defense spent so much time being absolutely awful. And when you consider the $175 million that they spent in the offseason to buffer this defense, I think that's even more of a salient point to bring up when you're going off about the Steelers. And I think you're right, because they underachieved. Then the injuries kicked in and all of this other stuff, so we understand that. Here's the reason I would say the Bills, however. I would say the Bills because you know who you have in Josh Allen. And Keon Coleman is not that dude yet. And before the trading deadline, I know you tried to get Jalen Waddle. To have the Miami Dolphins demanding a 2026 first-round pick, according to the reports, and you refusing to make a move because you were only willing to give up a 2027 first-round pick instead of a 2026 first-round pick is criminal. That's just criminal. You can't do that. You can't take for granted and say, well, you know what, we're going to look to the future to the point where Josh Allen is out there doing everything that he can to live up to his MVP status and be, the spectacular quarterback that he is. And you clearly know he needs help, and you don't prioritize getting him help because you're trying to delay a first-round pick being a year away. In other words, instead of 2026, you didn't want to let go of it until 2027. That doesn't make sense. And that's where it tips the scales for me comparing Buffalo to Pittsburgh.
I agree. I feel like if this is the Bills and it's not even close. I hear what you're saying about the Steelers because the way they've fallen off so far this season. But coming into this year, we knew what Aaron Rodgers was. He was going to be a placeholder for the quarterback position. We didn't think the Steelers were going to go on some Super Bowl
It's a
run.
future Hall of Fame quarterback and a future Hall of Fame head coach, y'all. And they had a 3-game lead
But
on
they haven't
the
won a
Ravens
playoff
in the
game in
division.
how many years
Since
did you say?
16.
Yeah.
2016.
Exactly.
Well, didn't Mike Tomlin say the standard is the standard? We're supposed to accept the mediocrity that the Pittsburgh Steelers have?
I agree with
But
that.
what is the standard?
They're not going to win the division,
We're just
y'all.
saying Buffalo's a little worse.
What were your expectations for them before? Did you think they were going to win the division before the season? Because I did not. I had the Ravens win the division.
No, but I certainly moved the goalposts after the first month of football.
Okay, but
which we can do.
Right, but what did you think about the Bills? There was no way I thought the Bills were going to lose their division. I thought they would push for the AFC Championship game. The way they're 3-4, man. Like in the last 7 games, they are not playing well, and they've lost to some bad
losses,
teams,
right?
Bad teams, and not close. I mean, it's just an anomaly. I mean, it doesn't make sense to me when I think about how good they should be offensively, and they can't get this. This is the reigning MVP of our game, and again, one of the best QBs in our game. Yeah. It's just, I mean, I am shocked at how the Bills have fallen. I'll be honest. I did not think. I thought this was a 12-13 win team, easy, walking away in their division and going to be hitting the high road in the playoffs. They're going to battle to get in.
If they don't make the postseason this year, if the Bills don't make I think we're all going to be shocked. Whereas with the Steelers.
But I think the Bills will make the postseason. I don't with Pittsburgh. That's the difference.
Yeah.
So when we start talking about disappointment, the season for the Buffalo Bills can go on into the tournament. I don't think that's going to happen in Pittsburgh.
No, we will see. But now for Kansas City.
Steelers Nation. Today's conversation isn't just about another loss or another segment on TV. It's about how the national media is talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers, how they're comparing us to the Buffalo Bills, and why, even after falling out of the playoff picture, this team is still alive, still dangerous, and still capable of turning the AFC upside down. The debate starts with Steelers versus Bills. Who has been more disappointing? Several analysts say immediately that the Bills are more disappointing because expectations for them were sky high. They had the reigning MVP, a loaded roster, and were supposed to cruise to 12 or 13 wins. Instead, they've fallen apart with bad losses, drama at receiver, and a collapsing defense. Then another analyst flips it and says the Steelers are more disappointing, not because they're bad, but because expectations for Pittsburgh were incredibly high. He reminds the audience the Steelers started the season 4-1, leading the AFC North by 3 games. He brings up that Mike Tomlin handpicked 41-year-old Aaron Rodgers to end the playoff drought, and for the first month and a half, it looked like it was working. That disappointment comes from belief that this team should be competing for the division. Another analyst says the real issue has been the defense underperforming after the Steelers invested around $175 million to rebuild it. That's criticism, but it also highlights how seriously Pittsburgh attacked the offseason and how much talent is actually on the roster. Meanwhile, the Bills are blasted for not going all in at the trade deadline, refusing to give up a 2026 first-round pick for Jalen Waddle, called criminal on live TV. Compared to that, Pittsburgh looks far more committed to winning now. Throughout the segment, multiple analysts openly admit Buffalo has fallen harder than Pittsburgh. They expected dominance from the Bills, and instead they're fighting for their playoff lives. One analyst says the Bills will probably make it anyway, but he doubts the Steelers will. That line is important. They are counting Pittsburgh out, and that is exactly the type of moment when the Steelers have historically responded. Taken together, the panel unintentionally reveals several pro-Steelers points. The team showed contender-level play early, they have a Hall of Fame coach and quarterback, they invested heavily in the defense, and the AFC playoff race is wide open. The national media is firing shots, but only because they know the potential of this roster. The question now is whether the Steelers will use this doubt as fuel, whether Rodgers returns healthy, whether the defense tightens up, and whether Pittsburgh can reclaim the fire they had in September and make a late-season push. Steelers Nation, I want to hear from you. Do you think this team can still shock the AFC? Drop your thoughts, hit like, and subscribe to Steelers Nation Wire, because this season isn't over. Not with this team, and not in this city.